Now, critics have argued that journalists don't particularly like press conferences because of its impersonal nature, right? But it also turns out that athletes don't particularly like to be interviewed personally. In your view and assessment, what's the relationship between media and sports?
I must say, well, the media is very important in sport. It's a very complementary relationship, I must say. And the role of the media is really to highlight sport, to highlight athlete achievements, to put sport on the platform, and also ensure that there is fan engagement as well, and to also highlight achievements of athletes, and to talk about where we are as a nation in terms of sport, because sport is global, and we also want to gauge ourselves against other nations, against other athletes, and for us to know about what is happening, it really is the role of the media. An athlete can only go so far, mainly by competing, that is their role, but then they cannot be able to sort of write a story about themselves, or be able to engage the media, engage the fans, engage coaches, or even sponsors. So I believe that is the complementary role that media plays in sport.
Okay. Now, most sporting bodies have started separating men and women's social media pages. Do you think this is the right way to promote female sports?
I think I can't say there is any right or wrong way of promoting sport. What is the right way to do anything about promotion in terms of sport, whether male or female, is to actually bring anything to the light and bring all the achievements, all the highlights of what is happening within any sport to light, whether it's within the same social media or is separate. But then there's always a reason why people strategically separate men and women's sport. It could be a solution to, ensuring that there is a focus on the different demographics at a time. So separating them or joining them really is neither here nor there, but it's really about what exactly is being highlighted and how it is being highlighted as well, in terms of the frequency particularly. Are we looking at the frequency of female sports or male sports being more dominant, even if it is within the same media page, or even separate? You can separate them as well, but still not report anything. So it's not really so much about where the platform is, but also what the input is and what the content is in terms of promotion of the sport.
Yeah. Right. So, unfortunately, some sports personalities have sometimes been portrayed in a bad light. Please just tell us how media coverage that's negative affects sports people in general.
I think what happens is any juicy story makes the headlines. Any juicy story also increases sales of the media. So if you're going to talk about an athlete competing at the World Championships, for example, as opposed to an athlete being involved in a scandal, you definitely look at the revenue that comes when you report about the scandals. So sometimes it's also about what it means to report negatively about athletes. Sometimes we also forget that these are also humans, and most of the time athletes are young people trying to navigate their way, especially through fame. So you have an athlete who wins gold medals at teenage level. They're still an adolescent, still trying to understand where life is. They're also bound to make many mistakes, a lot of bad choices, because of their proximity to the public and because of their fame and fortune even. So sometimes they don't know how to handle their fame, they don't know how to handle their fortune. Sometimes you then realize the media would just then sensationalize, unfortunately, and magnify the bad issues that are happening to an athlete. But then I think it's also only fair that we sort of understand where the athletes are coming from, understand their story, understand their road to fame, to success as well, and try and protect them also from the eyes of the world, because there's a lot of pressure that comes with being an athlete, especially being a successful athlete. So the negative portrayal of athletes, I believe the media can also just be part of the journey to ensure that we also protect our own athletes from this negative vibe. Because what it then does, in as much as it may increase sales, for example, of the papers, but it also then gives a bad light to sponsors. Then they stop sponsoring sport. So there is also a ripple effect when we portray and magnify the mistakes or the negative aspects about athletes, because it has a ripple effect even to sponsors. And then the sponsors would have even sponsored the media to even travel and cover a world match. But then if you're focusing on scandals, then the sponsors also won't come in and say, these guys are not serious. So there is also a need to look at, the impact of, negative reporting, particularly on athletes.
Thank you.
Konapo, ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294. the place to be.